Hello, I'm David Boyer, Danfoss Drive's Service Training Coordinator. I'll show you today how to use the MCT10 software for parameter handling.
Please take a moment now to pause the video to read the safety warnings shown here. Failure to follow these warnings could result in death or serious injury.
There's a number of ways to work with parameters. We'll hit on these. There's how to save parameters to a project file, how to compare parameter settings between two drives, how to compare a configuration to the default values, something called minimal change set. You can save parameters to different formats, Excel, Word, PDF, or text format. We'll look at how to create a new parameter file within a project and how to take and copy a whole drive out of one saved file and paste it into another MCT10 file. Let's begin with just looking at saving parameters to a project file. What I have here is the MCT10 software. It's up and running and live on the network, connected to the USB port of my laptop, is this drive. Highlighting the drive, you can get information on the drive you're connected to, the series, power size, volt, software version, etc. If there were option cards installed in this drive, they would show here when you plug into the drive. Notice here the drive's operation status. This is indicating what state the drive is in if you were able to look at the keypad, which we are. It's showing alarm 80, drive initialized, indicating that my connected drive is at factory default settings, starting with a clean slate. Let's clear this alarm. Notice that the bottom line of the drive display is showing off remote coast. And let's look at, we'll expand this menu. There's a choice here, all parameters. This is every parameter in this drive, the whole list. You can notice it polling. You can see blinking red every time it updates a parameter setting. If you expand this, rather than show every parameter, it shows the major headings to where you can quickly get to a specific parameter that you're interested in. And notice if I hit main menu on the drive, it shows that same list. Narrowing down, you get the full list. You can think of the MCT10 over here as being just an extension of the keypad of the drive. Any parameter change that we make over here, it's instantly changed in the drive. For example, if we change our motor speed unit from Hertz to RPM, hit OK to enter, we can look at that parameter 002 over here in the drive, and it reflects that change. Same way that we can make this change from the keypad back to Hertz. Hit OK to enter, and notice it indicates here in the MCT10, because we're plugged in live to that drive in real time, it indicates that change. So like I said, this is a live drive. Any parameter changes that are made, they're stored in the drive, not in MCT10. Once we disconnect from this drive, the MCT10 will have no memory of what was there and what was done. In order to save a configuration, it needs to be down here in the project, which you do by simply dragging and dropping. We're finished. Reading from drive was successful. Let's close the window. I'm going to rename this by right-clicking and choose Rename, Factory Default Settings. I'm going to leave that file alone. It'll give us a baseline. Here's where we started. Reinitialize drive, factory default settings. Notice the bottom line says off remote coast. The reason for that is the default setting in digital inputs for terminal 27 is coast inverse. So without any control signals wired to this drive, terminal 27 will indicate a coast. Now let's do here on this live drive, we'll make one parameter change that I would recommend on all configurations here in North America. Change regional settings to North America. Now once I hit the OK to enter that, notice what happens to my drive. It's now showing external interlock alarm 60. That's because even though we did not make any change directly to terminal 27, the North America default setting for terminal 27 is external interlock. Still, that terminal 27 has no signal. When it's programmed this way, this is what you get, the alarm 60. So let's again save our live drive down into the project. Reading from drive was successful. Close the window. Now let's rename this North American defaults. Here's where I'll show you how to compare parameter settings between two drives. Right-click on one of your drives. We'll right-click on North American defaults. If you choose compare, it'll want to know compare to what. You can compare a saved drive to a live drive. Let's compare to the factory defaults. We'll choose only setup one. Hit compare. And although the only parameter that we changed directly was 003 regional settings from international to North America. Here's the original settings. Here's the North America settings. Notice it's quite a list. Time and date format. We like to put the month first. In Europe, they like to put the day of the month first. A 24-hour clock to a 12-hour clock. Motor power, they work in kilowatts, and so this drive is a 1.1 kilowatt drive. And if we looked at the keypad here, we would not see parameter 121. Actually, since the live drive here is this parameter set, we'll see parameter 121, 1-21. There, and notice there is no parameter 120. It's hidden. When we're in North American defaults, we see power in horsepower. International defaults, you would see parameter 120, motor power in kilowatts. You would not see 121. And of course, that changes all of the motor data. It changes the advanced motor data along with it. Changes reference function from sum to external preset, speed limits. All of the 50 hertz defaults are changed to 60 with just that one parameter change. And then scrolling down, notice here's my terminal 27. Started out as coast inverse. We went to North America, changed it to external interlock. Now notice what happens here, and we could do this compared to the live drive. But let's say here they're different. You know what? I like coast inverse. I don't want to see the alarm. So once we get to this parameter, we can go down here and say update that first drive, and that's no longer on the list. We don't see parameter 512 anymore. It's not there because what we're looking at is a comparison of differences. We just made those two parameters the same, so they no longer even make the list. I can close that without making the changes. Now that we have a couple of drives here in the project, these can be saved and stored offline by just doing like in any Windows format, file, save as. Give it a name. You can only save it in MCT10 file type. Give it a name, pick a location. You get the idea for saving a project. And then these parameter settings, right now my drive is at North American defaults. I could take this parameter set, choose write to drive. If I hit OK there, it would write those factory default settings back into the live drive. So when you're live with the drive here, you can think of this as a very elaborate extension of the keypad. One nice thing about using MCT10 as opposed to the keypad is that you can see all four setups at once. Let's say, for example, we wanted to configure a drive where in the different setups you use a different reference source. Doing that from the keypad, you would need to get down here to parameter 315. Let's change this to analog input 54. See, it instantly updates here in the MCT10. Let's leave that parameter at analog input 53 in setup 3, and then change it in setup change it in setup 3. That would require from the keypad going into the active setup, change it to setup 2 or 3. Hit the OK. Notice what the top right of the display shows. It indicates now that we're in setup 3 and we're programming setup 3. Let's go down to 315. Change the reference source in parameter 315 from the keypad. Change it to pulse input 29 and hit OK. Now see, it changed automatically here. But how much quicker would it be? You've got the MCT10 all at once here. You can change, one setup to analog input 53, the next setup to analog 54, the next one to pulse input 33, and then use digital potentiometer. Much quicker to do it over here. We just changed all four of those without having to go into the drive keypad, change from one setup to the other. So that covers changing parameters through MCT10 into a live drive, how to save a live drive setup into the project. Once you have drives down here in your project, how to save them to your hard drive. Next, let's look at comparing a configuration to factory default values that you can do on any project drive that you have. What I've got going on here now is my plugged-in drive is programmed in closed loop to maintain a pressure. I'm simulating a situation where it has plugged into it a 0 to 10 volt pressure transducer representing 0 to 5 inches of water gauge. In the top left corner of the display is a set point of 2.3 inches. In the top right of the display is the feedback signal, which I can artificially manipulate. If I drop it down below 2.3, the drive begins speeding up. If I raise that above 2.3, the drive begins slowing down. It's looking for the speed it needs to go to make the feedback equal the set point. So if I try to dial that in somewhere around 2.3, the drive's going to hold at a steady speed. Typical closed loop setup. What parameter changes does that require? Well, here they are. Once again, let's copy that into the project file so that we can work with those parameters. Okay, we're copied. Close it. Let's rename it closed loop. So what parameters did I change to make that happen? Expanding this menu, right-clicking on all parameters, I can choose compare parameters with default values. There's the list. I changed the displays to show up in the top left the set point, top right the feedback, put it into closed loop, changed the ramp times. I gave it a minimum speed of 15 hertz. I scaled that simulated feedback signal on terminal 54 to be 5 inches. 2012 is where you choose what units to display. Make the maximum feedback 5 inches. That's where I put in my set point. I made the proportional gain and integral time a little more aggressive. So that's how you get a nice quick list of changes from default values for a configuration. Now right here from this window you can choose Save As, and it'll give you a text file. It's calling it Changed Parameters by Default. We'll save that here. Let's take a look at how that looks. Changed parameters, it was called. There's a text file. Nice and simple. Next, let's look at something called minimal change set. We saw the fairly short list of parameters when we look at when we compared to default values. Let's go in here and change the regional settings to North America. And we remember what that long list looked like. Hit OK to enter that. Now, if we did like before and compare with default values, it gets that long list. Maybe you don't want to see that long list. Let's just look at the parameters that we've actually changed. That's what this does. Minimal change set. That shows only the parameters that we actually went in and changed. There's the regional settings, international to North America, and then the same list of other parameters. Again, you could save that as a text file. Let's delete this and show another feature. I'm going to disconnect from this drive. I pulled out the USB plug, drive disappears. Now we have a completely offline MCT 10 session open. If you right click on project, you can create a new drive offline. Choose any drive series. It could be the HVAC drive, automation, Aqua drive. Pick any software version. Maybe you have an older drive that you want to write a file to and take your laptop out in the field and dump that in. You can match up the software version to the drive you're going to be putting that into. Pick a power size, voltage. You can even add option cards. You know, you could put in a backnet option if you wanted to. The different hardware options in the B slot. You might have a general purpose, extra input outputs, or a relay card. So I'm just going to go with the default values. Now let's say I go in here and just change the motor horsepower to see if it'll accept a 2. And then again, if we compare to default values, once you change the horsepower, it changes the current, different of the advanced motor data, changes the torque limit. Whereas if you look at minimal change set, that's the only parameter that I went in and changed. This can be useful for getting a short list of only those parameters which you need to be concerned with to program a drive a certain way. You don't see all of those others that have been changed in the background. Let's look here now at saving parameters into different formats. And we'll do this creating a new parameter file within a project drive. Let's look at both of these. Getting parameters into a different format. You can, let's just look at along the list here. You can highlight certain parameters, and then what you would do is copy and paste. Let's copy this. We can pull up an Excel file, Paste it in there. It gives you a nice heading column in all of the selected parameters, nothing else. Let's undo that, go back here. Just like in many Windows applications, holding down the control button, you can copy different lines that you're interested in. Copy and paste. It'll only give you those lines we selected. Now, the trick is if you pick out a few rows here and then want to go to a different set, you lose it. You know, pick out a few here. Copy. Back to my Excel. I'm only getting the 4 group. You know, of course you could, it'd be pretty clunky, but all parameters you could run through here and only get the ones you're interested in and keep them all. You know, reference function, who knows, reference source. You can do this across parameter sets. Copy and paste. That's just the ones I picked out. You can also paste into Word. But probably the thing to do, there's something called, if you right click on the drive and choose new, you can choose a new parameter folder. It'll appear down here under multi-motor. So new parameter folder, there it is, a new folder. Same idea, you can paste into here those parameters you're interested in, and then keep going back and getting the full list of what you're interested in. Say the copy. Let's add that to our folder. Right click up here on ID and choose paste. It adds that to the list. It maintains them in numeric order. Let's add the scaling on our analog input 53. We'll take that whole group there. So you can maintain within a drive file. You know, you've got your FC102 drive down here in the project, and you can keep along with it a list of parameters you're interested in. Now notice, let's say here the motor speed low limit is at 0. If we go here and change the motor speed low limit to something other than 0, and look back at our list, this is live. It updates. You can give that any name you like. Interested parameters. Now here, it's easy to copy this list. Copy. Go to Excel, right click and paste. There's your nice list. I'll choose the other choice where it maintains your row heights. Another good way to get a very usable short list of only those parameters you're interested in. And of course, putting into Word, you can paste the same way, whichever format you choose. You can make a list here, print it out, and keep it right with the drive. And then finally, taking a whole drive out of one MCT10 file and pasting it into another. The free version of MCT10 is limited to only 4 drives in a project file. However, there's no limit to how many project files you can save. Let's put that back up again. So let's just do this. We'll create a drive. We'll call it A. Save this MCT10 file. We'll call this A. Save it here in our lesson. Close MCT10, open a brand new session. We'll make a drive, and we'll call it B. File and save this session as B in the same place. Close MCT10, open it again with a new, fresh session. Make a drive. What do you think we're going to call it? C. File save as C. Close MCT10. Now let's say we wanted to combine all of those into the same file. We can go here to B, copy that entire drive, and a close, because you can't have more than one MCT10 session open at a time. Let's add our drive B into here. There it is. We put them in the same file. Yes, we want to save that change. Now let's go collect our drive C. Right click, copy, close this session. Go back to session A where we're collecting them all together. Right click. There you go. So say you have a bunch of free version MCT10s saved where you've got 4 drives in them, and then you one day buy the licensed version. You can go in there and collect up all those drives and save them in the same file. That's the MCT10 parameter handling. I hope you've seen there some features that'll be useful to you. Any questions on it? Remember the Danfoss tech support number, 888-DANFOSS. Thanks for listening. Good luck with it.
Thank you for viewing. We hope this information has been helpful. Danfoss drives can provide additional technical support, parts information, or repair services options by contacting us through one of the following methods. For immediate access to customer service or a technical support expert in North America, call 1-888-DANFOSS or 1-888-326-3677, or contact us through email. For technical support, the email address is drives.ts.na@danfoss.com. For customer service, the email address is drives.cs.na@danfoss.com. For after-sales service, the email address is drives.ts.service.na@danfoss.com. Additional information is also available on our website at www.danfossdrives.com. For contact information in areas outside of North America, please visit our global website at www.danfoss.com. Thanks again.